What's cracking, Hope Nation? It's Kevin Hines, and we are at another round of Ask Kevs, and I'm gonna continue answering these questions from all of you on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And those of us and those wonderful questions we got in recently from Kirtland Air Force Base. Shout out, Kirtland! Thank you for your service to those wonderful airmen trying to survive the pain they're going through and struggling and dying by suicide at an alarming rate. We have to answer their questions first. It is a pressing matter. These are pressing times. My next question from Kirtland Air Force Base is, how did those left behind after a suicide constructively grieve and deal with guilt? This is a tough question, but frankly, my friends at Kirtland, you're going to deal with the grieving loss of a suicide just like any other family would around the world, together, in unity, without blame and without guilt. That guilt doesn't really belong to you. No matter what the situation was, where the person or how the person took their life, they didn't die because of you or in spite of you. They died because of an extensive, irrational, illogical, lethal emotional pain that had nothing to do with you. That term was coined by my friend Dr. John Draper of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255, soon to be changed potentially to 988. We'll get to that later. Dealing with the loss of a loved one this way, to this kind of death by someone's hand. You have to surround yourself with people who love you. You can never move on from a suicide. Let's be honest with each other. Let's not lie to each other. It is devastating. It is absolutely devastating to lose someone. I've lost 8 people I love this way. I've attempted myself. So you must find a way to look to the living, those who remain in front of you or around you who love you, and move forward. That's how you deal with this. You move forward, not on. You look to the future. You look to those who still remain here for comfort and kindness and concern. And you look to people for love and affection. Even if you're the toughest person in every room, or even if you're the toughest airman in any room, you really need to make sure that you're being vulnerable enough to be open and honest about your pain from the losses you've experienced. Now, you're airmen, so you're losing people at a rate that is different from the civilian population, and these are your brothers and your sisters. And we're supposed to be our brothers and sisters' keepers, so of course we feel guilty, but I promise you, as I said before, that guilt does not belong to you. You have to find a way to recognize that you weren't the cause of this death, and that just because they died and they were your friend, your unit member, your loved one, your brother, your sister, or just someone you looked up to, that guilt will destroy you. My recommendations are these. Get to someone you can talk to, preferably a clinical perspective, a clinician, a mental health therapist. Go to Mental Health on Base and tell your truth, all of it. Don't leave anything out. Don't let shame or fear define what you say. Be honest in your pain. Tell that truth so you can purge it from your soul. I was once told by a very intelligent and wise young man that a pain shared is a pain halved. If we keep it inside, it bottles, it bubbles, it festers, it grows, and then it bursts things like rage, aggression, violence, substance use disorder, alcoholism. We all know airmen are going through that at an alarming rate as well. So is the rest of the civilian population, with our mortality rate lowering for the first time in 3 years by opioid crisis, liver cirrhosis, liver failure because of alcoholism, and suicide. So this is a time when we must band together, lock arms, and say we're not letting one more of our loved ones go or our unit members go this way. We are going to make sure that no matter what they're going through, no matter what shame they're dealing with, no matter what guilt they feel that they have to die by their hands, we can help them get to safety and help if they're just honest about it. And B, they deserve this life until their natural end. And C, if someone dies near you, by you, that you love, that you work with, it's not your fault. You cannot harbor that guilt. You have to work through it in therapy. And if you can't find a therapist, or you can't avail of a therapist, because we look at the issues with within the military, not having enough clinical perspectives on bases or even at home to come and care for you guys, we need to find creative tools and creative ways to keep you safe. Things like at Kirtland, you've got the Gravity Center where they're opening up and having food at the mess hall. They're making sure they're having open conversations at the mess hall with the chaplains. Shout out to the chaplains at Kirtland. You guys are amazing, doing hard work in the chaplain corps to keep your officers safe. and as well as your commanding officials. And so my last words would be these about this question. That guilt, as I said 3 times, does not belong to you. You must recognize that in dealing with it, you have to work together as a team, just like you do in the battlefield. And you have to recognize that this is the beginning of a time where we are absolutely working tirelessly to find ways to stop airman suicides and military suicides once and for all. We're working tirelessly. We're doing it together. That's all we can do, and we'll continue this fight until we get to 0 suicides. My friends at Kirtland, thank you for watching again. I really appreciate it. I will be answering the rest of your questions in the rest of these series, this military-focused, airman specific to Kirtland Air Force Base episodes of ASKKEV. I really don't mind if you don't subscribe. I just want you to get the videos, find hope in them, and find a purpose so you can stay here. Be here tomorrow, one day at a time, and every day after that. And if nobody else says it today, Kirtland, we love you, and we want you to stay. Bye, guys. Kirtland, you can't get away from me that easily. Before I let you go on this video, there's something really important I forgot to do. We need to go right to our good friend, Dr. April Foreman, formerly of the VA, our new clinical director at the Kevin and Margaret Hines Foundation. She is well-versed in military issues and a clinical perspective as to these questions. Dr. Foreman, what do you think about this question that was asked at Kirtland, and what is your clinical perspective? Please take it away.
Hi, I'm at Doc Foreman. I'm the Chief Medical Officer at the Hines Foundation, and this is another AskKEV. Kevin's been asked, how do you heal after a suicide loss? And this is a very serious question. I talk with lots of families who've lost someone to suicide. I have lots of colleagues who have lost someone that they love to suicide. And because I'm a clinician that specializes in the care of people who are high risk for suicide, I've definitely lost some patients to suicide, including one person right in front of me. These are terrible losses. This is a horrible, it's a horrible weight. It's a horrible grief. What I would tell you is that there is no kind of healing or recovery where it's like it was before. I don't think anyone comes to a stable sense of recovery and well-being after a suicide loss the same person as they went in. One of my good friends, Sue, talks about there becomes a grittiness to you and a toughness to you, and you live in the world differently. Part of recovery is coming to a place of sort of peace, a place of sort of grace at living with the suicide death. There's a piece of deep acceptance. People die in lots of ways and for lots of reasons. Suicide's a 10th leading cause of death, but I'm thinking of my grandparents, one who died from heart disease, another who died from complications from his Alzheimer's. We understand that sometimes after everything can be done, someone might die. And we also understand that there are conditions like HIV in the 1980s, when I was much younger, that science didn't understand well. And while now it's understood and it's treatable and a person can live well with HIV, when I was growing up in the 80s, that wasn't true. When it comes to suicide deaths, we really should do a better job talking to survivors about the fact that we don't have enough good science. We don't understand in a scientific way why someone has died by suicide. And one of the things that I regularly talk with survivors about is I don't think that there's a good enough why that would make somebody's suicide death okay. People often ask, well, why did they kill themselves? And I often say, well, we don't know. And even if we did, would it be a good enough answer? The answer is no. I just don't want them to be dead. And so I think just a real healthy acknowledgement of that. For many people who are healing after suicide loss, they want to do everything they can to advocate and prevent this kind of grief and pain from happening to others. I think of my cousin Michelle, who died after a lot of experiences of cancer, and all of our family going on walks and donating money and supporting her, and she ultimately passed away. And we still give, and we hope that the science around the kind of cancer that she has improves, because we don't want other families to have to live through losing people the way that we did. And I think for some people who survived a suicide death, that's what they do. I think Kevin had a really great point about how we get through it together. we experience a suicide loss and we put our arms around each other and we hold on to each other and we get through these deaths together. I do this work because I believe that there is a day when the blight of suicide just won't be a regular part of our communities, where we won't continue to experience suicidal feelings as a death sentence, but that we'll understand them and we'll be able to do something about them much more effectively and much more earlier than sometimes we do now. Until then, we're going to stick together.